we have some more parts for our G1000 Minneapolis Moline back in the shop here. I don't know if you remember a few months back, a customer brought me in the heads, one of the heads rebuilt on it, and we managed to get the guide work squared away and some new valves and valve seats and built a set of heads for him, and he put them on his tractor. At that time, he also pulled the pistons out of the engine, and he was going to try to get by just putting new rings on the pistons and new bearings, and he attempted to do that, or did get that done, actually assembled it that way, and fired the thing up and just never could get it to run right. And that does not surprise me any, because he has now brought me the cylinders here. We have a service manual over here that tells me that the cylinders, if there is more wear, taper, or odd around in excess of 3 thousandths at the bottom of the excess at 3 thousandths at the bottom of the cylinder or 10 thousandths at the top, the block should be replaced or the cylinders rebored to correspond with available oversized pistons. Well, at this point, he has found me some 60 over pistons, and they are to be installed with 7 to 9 thousandths piston cylinder wall clearance. So again, like I said, I've set my gauge up here to standard bore size, and let's just start with number 1 cylinder here. I'm going to go down in the bottom, and this cylinder here on my gauge, if I brought that needle on up to where it's on 0, that is standard bore size. But this one here, as I measure it, it is 10, 11, almost 12 thousandths larger than that at the bottom. And our wear limit is 3. And up at the top, it comes on around here. There is, from 0, there's 10, 20, almost 30 thousandths wear at the top, 30 thousandths plus. Our limit is 10. Every one of the cylinders is extremely worn out. I can see why his rings would not ever seat into that, so he could develop the required compression and make this engine run. But now look at this number 4 cylinder here. It had set with water, and we have an extreme amount of rust and pitting inside that cylinder. There's just no way any rings are ever going to seal on that. And the other bad part on this, I haven't even told the customer about this, that is so rusted and worn that there is no way a 60 over piston is going to clean that up. And we're going to have to put a sleeve in that one to save it. So we're going to set these up, rough bore them, deck the surface, finish hone the cylinders, and we will put a sleeve in this cylinder to make the repair. But when I do that, I'm going to go ahead and make some smaller cuts on this one. I'm not going to cut directly to the sleeve size, just to show how bad this is and prove to all of us, including me, that there is no way we can repair that without putting a sleeve in it.
Hey everyone, we wanted to take a quick break to mention that today's video is sponsored by Fabric by Gerber Life. There are some things school doesn't really teach you, like how to handle the financial world, or that you have to plan now for a successful future later. And that includes your kids.
Just like the investments that I'm making now to grow and improve upon the business that my dad has built over the last 40 years, I'm partnering with Fabric to set my daughter up for her own success.
Fabric makes it easy for you to set up an investment account for your child now that grows with them and helps prepare for their financial future. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kid's investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. Your kids can't invest while they're minors, but a UGMA investment account allows you to invest on their behalf and give their investments more time to grow, setting them up for success down the road. Funds can be used for anything that benefits your child, from tuition and books to summer camps and after-school activities. And the best part is, when they're grown up and adults, they can use the funds for their first home, a new car, or even to start a business. It's all online, so you can set up an account in just 5 minutes with as little as $1 a day. There are no contribution limits, multiple tax advantages, and they're SIPC insured up to $500,000. Plus, no commission fees and just a low flat monthly maintenance fee. It's also easy to get your family and friends involved in your child's financial future by sharing your child's unique gifting link. So instead of them gifting things your child will outgrow before their next birthday, they can help your child's investments grow with them. Fabric has partnered with Gerber Life, a name trusted by millions of families like yours for over 50 years. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/JimsAuto. That's meetfabric.com/JimsAuto. MEET fabric.com/JimsAuto. Thank you to Fabric for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to it.
I've got my first cylinder mounted here on the boring machine. This is what I consider the best one of the three, since we've got some rust in those other cylinders there. And we're going to be doing a couple things today a little different than we usually would. I have a brand new set of diamond honing stones on our cylinder hone over here. These stones do have to be broke in to get them running true and even all the way up and down, so they'll hone the cylinder straight after we get done boring it straight. So what I'm going to do here today, I'm going to rough bore these cylinders out to 30 thousandths. I think that is enough that it will clean up the wear that's in the cylinders right now and get me a straight cylinder. Then we're going to move over to the cylinder hone, and I'm going to go through the process of breaking our stones in. And hopefully before I get to the 60 thousandths oversize on these, my stones will be broke in. Since I already have the surfacing head on this machine, I'm going to go ahead and deck the surface to the top of this block just to have that out of the way, because you will see me changing back and forth between the surfacing head and the boring head probably several times before we get this job done. So today my preference is going to be, since this is already set up, we're going to go ahead and surface the deck here. So let me move this over, and we'll come down here close. And I got a piece of paper here. So I'm going to come down till I feel the piece of paper touch. There, I can just start feel a little bit drag between my cutter and the block on that piece of paper. So that tells me I'm the distance of about a sheet of paper, which is probably 3 thousandths away from the surface. Got it mounted, double checked, everything's secure. We actually want to indicate in off of the bottom side here that sits against the crankcase of the block, but this side is supposed to be parallel to that. I'm going to assume it is. Just kind of double check, make sure I don't have something way off, and my level looks good on the top side. I know my machine is good. Since this looks good on this side, I'm going to assume we're okay down here. Okay, right there I can hear my cutter has just touched off 3.5 thousandths, which makes sense. That would have been the thickness of the paper. I can see a few little marks across here. So I'm going to zero again, and let's see. I'm going to say we can probably clean that up in probably 2 or 3 thousandths is going to be my guess. It's not really bad. I just want to do it while we're here. So let's try 2 thousandths, see what happens. Okay, so we've got our surface cleaned up. Just took a couple thousandths. Actually looks real nice, other than there's a little bit here where there's some pitting from rust in the combustion chamber, but that will not affect the way the gasket seals. So now we need to raise this up. We'll switch to the boring head, and we'll come back, and I'm going to make those 2 cylinders about 30 over, just enough to make them straight. You can see this is why we are having to go to 60 over to clean these cylinders up, because they are so worn. And what I was doing here, I centered up down at the bottom where there was no wear, so that we would stay on center with where they're supposed to be. And you can see there, actually I went just a little over 30 over, but it doesn't matter because we're using this to break in those new stones. But if I come up here at the top and measure, it's probably going to take, look at this, find the worst spot. It's going to take probably another 5, maybe 8 thousandths in bore size for that would ever clean. So hopefully all of them are at least as good as this one, to where our 60 over pistons will clean up. So now I need to move over to this cylinder. We'll rough it out to 30. But they've cut the ridge out of it, so just to take your finger and feel, you'd think, oh, that's not so bad, because there's no ridge. Well, it's because they cut the ridge out and honed the cylinder. Again, it's barely touching as it starts into that cylinder. So this cylinder almost, you guys can't see it on camera, but it just left a little bit over here on the side that didn't clean at 30 over. So I'm going to take this off here and we'll move over to the cylinder hone and see if we can get those new stones to break in. See how far off they are. We rough bored this cylinder 30 over. I've now moved over to the cylinder honed, and I have my brand new roughing diamond stones here in this head, but they are not broke in. They are not true in diameter, top to bottom, or in the curvature to fit the cylinder. So we have to kind of work them a little bit, break them in. So to begin with, I'm going to put some Dykem on here, give them some color so we can see what's happening. And that's not only just for the camera, that's for me. A little bit on me for good measure. Okay, so now I'll expand this just enough to touch the cylinder wall. So this cylinder is 9.5 inches in length. Get this up to the top of the stroke length. I need the proper gauge on here. This is for a 3.5 inch stone length, which is what these are. So we'll come down here to 9.5. Okay, there's my 9.5. Lock that down. Then I have to set the overstroke, which on this one is roughly 5/8 of an inch. And that's my gauge for 5/8. If I'm doing an over 4.5 inch bore, I want to be on this belt speed. For this, that adjusts the spindle speed. And let's see, this one here adjusts the strokes. We're over 6 1/8 or 6.8 inch stroke length, so we need to change the speed here. Okay, so we're going to be on the slowest strokes per minute and the slowest spindle speed to start with. And we may adjust that as we go here, but that's our starting point. Yeah, we're about 30, 31, maybe 32 thousandths oversized right now. So I have a good 20 that I can hone just to break in my stones here. So let's make a few passes, see what it looks like. Okay, we have our coolant. Take a real easy stroke here, make sure everything clears okay. And I believe it does. So here we go. All right, let's see what they look like. Okay, that one I have a nice pattern all the way top to bottom. That one looks fair. That one I'm touching almost all the way. That one looks like it was really touching. Good here. Just a little bit down here. That one has virtually not touched at all. Let's see how the straightness of the cylinder is looking. Not bad. We're within half a thousandths. So let's go a few more strokes here, see what happens. Okay, looking at it again, I think we have pretty good contact there. Edge all the way. That one barely at the bottom. Edge, nothing. Good contact. So I've added some color to the stones here again. Let's make a few more passes and see how close we're getting to having them touch everywhere they should. I'm going to do that dry. Now add some coolant. Okay, let's see how we're looking. First one here, we're only touching the top half. Number 2, we're all the way. Number 3, all the way, with the exception a little heavier at the bottom than the top. Number 4 looks really good. Number 5, we're lacking just a little bit at the top here, but it's good in this area. Number 6 looks almost exactly like it should look. 7, we're good top to bottom with the exception it's not quite the full width. And number 8 looks real good, full width of the stone. Let's see how we are on diameter. And again, at this point, I'm not necessarily concerned about size as I am how straight it might be. And we are under 3/10 difference along the way. I'm real happy with the way that's coming out. So I think if we maybe do this same exact thing a couple more times, we will have those stones where they need to be.
What made you decide to try and run it dry?
Just trying to think of something different that might allow it to break the brass down and expose more of the diamond. It was just a hunch that maybe that might work.
Give it some extra friction.
Yeah, I know on the pin hone over there, that works well on breaking in the vitrified stones. Is you get a little bit of oil, get a slurry worked up, and then just the the grit of those will work on itself to wear down. So it was just, let's try something new, something we hadn't done. Are we on? I was going to say, I'm going to bring this up just to show you all this metal slurry or whatever that it works up in there when you have no coolant running on there. And I think that's what's helping me to break those stones in, is that it has to work in its kind of wallering around in its own feces there. But that actually is what's making those stones break down, so they will wear into the cylinder. Yeah, couldn't say the right word.
I knew what you meant.
So let's go a little bit more here with coolant on and clean that up. Clean my fingers up. You know, every time we run that, it does sound better. Okay, we'll start with number 1 over here again. And that was my one, I think, that was the worst to begin with. I've got 3/4 of it touching at this point. Number 2 looks good. Number 3 is touching all the way, just a little light at the top. 4 is good. 5, a little bit light here at the top. 6 is good. 7 is good. 8 is good. I think we quit on that while we're ahead. Let me brush that off a little, because I think there's just a lot of rust powder on there. Okay, you can still see there. Does that show it better? All that pitting that's in the cylinder wall there. That's at 30 thousandths over. We're going to go ahead and take this out to 60 over, but I want to leave a lip in the bottom for our sleeve to press down against. That way, if we do end up sleeving this cylinder, we can press the sleeve in, have a step at the bottom for it to sit against. The head will hold it in from the top. But if this thing cleans up at 60 over, we'll just leave it as such without the sleeve. So if that's the case, then I can go back and cut the step out of the bottom. They always say measure twice, cut once. And that's same with boring cylinders. And I'm glad I did, because I had that cutter set incorrectly the first time. I knew it didn't look right. So let's give this a shot, see what happens. So let's come up out of there and let's see what that cylinder looks like. Tell us whether or not we're going to have another sleeve in here, or whether we can let this one go as is. Oh, I'm liking what I see. But as I look down in at this point, I have good cylinder wall. Looking right up in this area, I can see just a little bit of discoloration there, but it is absolutely nothing to worry about. I can see a ring around the cylinder there where the piston ring evidently was stopped, where the piston sat with the moisture in it, but it does look like good solid metal. It's not real dark like what you see when the pitting is gone to the point where it's non-usable. So I think we're going to call it. So we'll run our cutter all the way down to that 375 thousandths mark that we left off. And we'll just finish going out the bottom. I'm going to slow that down a little bit because it is making quite a bit heavier cut. Because now it's taking it from standard to 60 over instead of just steps of 30 to 60. Okay, there we are cutting 300 thousandths, 100, 30, 20, 10, 0. Okay, right there we're out of it. Let's see if we can move over, do the same thing on the next cylinder. We'll run our first cutter through that will be bringing this out to 30 thousandths. Really not cutting much at the top there because of the wear. Almost 30 thousandths already. Okay, there we're through that cylinder, bringing it to our rough 60 over size, which is actually about 55 thousandths. Now I want to put a nice chamfer on top of that cylinder. Kind of just eyeball it here till it looks like we have a nice chamfer. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. And I'm stopping by the number on the DRO. There we are. What do you folks think? I think those cylinders look pretty nice. So we'll take a light cut off the top of this and be done. You have to give it just a little bit more. You can see the edges though where they have used something a little aggressive and rounded the edges off. I would like to keep these all three cylinders exactly the same height, so I may have to go back and measure them when we get done and maybe touch up some of the others, making the same thickness as the worst one. Okay, that got her, didn't it?
That's outside.
Yeah. I'm going to make that an even 40. So I now have our last cylinder assembly mounted up on the machine here. This is the one that is so rusted and so worn out on the inside of this cylinder right here that we've decided we're going to have to put a sleeve in there to salvage that block. Sleeve's obviously too long, but we can trim that down after we get it in. Our standard bore starts out at 4.625. My sleeve is 187.5 thousandths oversized from that. So we need to come out as a nominal size for the sleeve 4.812 and a half. So right now, with that in mind, standard at 4.625, I'm going to try to do this in 3 cuts to get where we need to be. So the first cut, I'll take out 85 thousandths, make it 4.710. Second cut, 85 thousandths, make it 4.795. And then I'll have to physically measure this sleeve and see how close it is to the anticipated size. I don't think I want to put that in with more than, maybe 1.5 or 2 thousandths press fit. So once we get down to this point here, I'll measure that again and see. The cylinder here itself, where we're going to put this in, I want to leave a step at the bottom like we talked about earlier when we were roughing out that other cylinder. That way when I press the sleeve in, it'll have a step to sit against, and we'll trim it flush on the top, and the head will hold it down from the top. Along with the press fit, it can never ever go anywhere. And my goal is when I get finished, to not even be able to see that sleeve in there. And I think I can accomplish that. I know this cylinder is 9.5 inch long, and I want to leave 1/4 inch at the bottom. So I'm going to set this for 9/250. Yeah, so now I want to bore right down to 0, and that should leave 1/4 inch step at the bottom for my sleeve to bump down against. I'm going to hand feed the rest of it here. There we are. When my customer brought these in, he just wanted them bored 60 thousandths oversized. And I'm not faulting my customer here because he just did not know. But as you look down in there, you can see how much rust came out as we bored through that cylinder. And we actually went 70 thousandths oversized, which is 10 thousandths bigger than the pistons he brought us. And I think you can probably see on the camera there, all that pitting that is still down towards the bottom of this cylinder. So there we are, 70 thousandths oversized, and he's only going 60 on his pistons, so there is no way this cylinder would clean up and have us a good surface to seat the pistons and rings into. So that's why we are putting a sleeve in there. Now, along with that, I said we're trying out a new cutter bit there. Let's see if that bored anywhere close to size it's supposed to be. Okay, I need to double check here, but I think that particular bit is actually boring that hole probably about 3 thousandths bigger than it's supposed to. All right, our second rough cut is out to 4.795. which I have adjusted this to, compensating for that 3 thousandths that we were off the first time. So this should get us right to the number we want. There we go. We have gotten past all of the rust. We've got a nice step in the bottom. In fact, you can see at the top here, the dust that's left on there is now good cast iron color, not all that orange rust. So I need to measure that again, see how we came out, and then I'll measure my sleeve, get an exact dimension for it, and we'll come back and do the finish cut. So after having used those new cutter bits in here that Nicholas found for me, I do not like the finish they leave. It got the job done, but it's not like what I want to leave for a final finish. So I've gone back to my old standard true insert that we've used forever. I measured my sleeve. My sleeve is about 4.8, 15 and a half. I'm going to set my cutter, or I have set the cutter at 4.8, 13 and a half. So hopefully when we get done here, I will have a 2 thousandths press fit.
New cutters are on the way.
Good. Same ones as I had before?
$250 worth.
You know, that's pretty amazing. Down in the bottom of that, I can still see where the piston was sitting, where the rust left off. There it is. Probably just a little under 2 thousandths. Right where I wanted to be. So I've got the cylinder assembly here off of the boring machine now, and I just wanted to show everybody. This is a cylinder we've bored out for the sleeve. Should be about a 2 thousandths press fit for that to go in. But I wanted to turn it around here and let you see the bottom side where I left the step at the bottom here. So the sleeve will go down and right on that step. So it can't ever slide out the bottom. The head goes on, it can't ever slide out the top. And hopefully when I get done, we won't even be able to see that line around there of where they come together. For lubrication for that sleeve to slide in, I'm just going to use a little bit of our whey oil. Lightly coat the top of the cylinder here. Put a little bit around the outside of the sleeve itself here. Doesn't take a lot. And I'll see if I can just get this started with a rubber mallet. See, I can see I'm not quite straight here. All right. Let's start that down in. I'm going to go just a little bit and release the pressure so if it's not quite started straight, it can find itself. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there going to take one look at this and say, oh my gosh, you should have used dry ice, you should have used liquid nitrogen, you should have heated the block. There's all kinds of things we should have done. All of those things would have made this go in easier, but is just not cost effective when we're going to have to make a 30-mile round trip to town to get dry ice, to get liquid nitrogen, which is very expensive in our area, despite what so many of you people think. And yes, I could have heated the block easily, but it's just not necessary. They go in just fine without. Okay, I'm going to wipe my excess oil out of there. A little bit of anaerobic sealer around the bottom of this. There we go. I can wipe that around easier. One last little insurance that nothing's going to go anywhere or leak. There it is. It's all the way to the bottom. So now we have some excess sleeve at the top. We'll go back over to the boring machine, mount this back up. I'll cut the top off. We'll bore both cylinders to size, deck it, and head for the hone. I have my cutter we just used to bore that out, adjusted out, a little bit larger than the sleeve itself, so we'll use the flat side of it coming down from the top to trim this off. My cutter is not cutting that quite square, so I have to really watch. It's leaving a little bit of an edge there. I think I'll stop right there and do the rest of that with the surfacing head. So I've readjusted my cutter to 4.625, which is standard bore size. So I'll put that in and we'll make the first pass through here and just bring the sleeve back to standard bore size. When that gets up out of there, I'll adjust that cutter out to 4.655, which would be 30 thousandths oversize from standard. So we'll let that make the pass, and then I still have my cutter set up from when we did the other cylinders to make the finish cut on that. Let's drop in the same cutter that we used on the other 2 cylinder assemblies to make it the 60 thousandths nominal size. Yeah, that looks good. You'll have to listen to this as it comes through the bottom of that sleeve and hits the original casting, how different it sounds. You hear that? That original casting, I'm not saying it's better material, but it cuts harder than those replacement sleeves do. I've got about 5 thousandths to hone out, plus I'm giving it maybe 1 thousandths extra clearance. So I'm gonna have 6 to hone out. Better to have too much to hone out than not enough. So this will take it from standard to 30. Yeah, that is really worn at the top. 30 thousandths is not even touching all the way around. When this gets up out of there, I'll switch to the number 2 cutter that will take it out to our 60 over nominal size. And I'm going to leave and trust that the machine will shut off when it's done. All right, everybody, we're picking up where we left off yesterday. Had just finished boring both of these cylinders to size, putting in my chamfer cutter. And with that, I'm ready to change heads here and use the surfacing fly cutter to put a nice deck surface on there. And let's trim the top of this sleeve off first. Okay, here's we've gone over that portion of it. So we'll back up here. Yeah, that feels a lot better. Maybe I'll come on down closer to the deck with one more pass. All right, that should have the top of that sleeve just about even with the deck. So now, just like on the others, it's just barely touching here in a few spots. Just like on the other cylinders, I took about 2 thousandths off, at least to start. Let's see if we can do the same thing here and make it clean up. Well, I think I'm going to call it good right there. We do have a little bit around the edge here, which would be inside the combustion chamber that did not clean up where it's rusty. And you can see the edge of my sleeve here that is surfaced off exactly the same height as the rest of the deck here, but it does leave the edge around here where it was rusted. I'm a little disappointed that because of the way the rust is here on the top, you're going to be able to tell I put a sleeve in there. My goal was to get that sleeve installed and have it hidden to the point where if you didn't know it was there, you would not be able to find it. But that's okay. Perfectly functional. Guess it's time to move on to the hone. So this cylinder, I still have a little bit to go, but I just wanted to show that things are working out real well for us. I actually want to finish plus 1 thousandths. but I'm right at 0 right now on my gauge. And I just want to show you as we go up and down how close that's coming out to 0. I think I'm well within 1/10 of an inch either side of 0, but I do want to run through this and finish at 1/1000 on the plus side here. I went a little too much. Isn't that what Nicholas told me? Says every time he turns it up, it goes too much. Yeah, that's okay. Time for the next one. All right, I've got the last cylinder of the 3 mounted here in the cylinder hone. I've got about close to 6,000ths there to hone out, which should not be a big deal with the diamond hones here, but earlier we were still setting up and breaking in those diamonds, so I wanted to make sure we had plenty of material to hone so we didn't have issues with that. Let's run our bore gauge down through there. Now this set of cylinders, we want to be 1.5 thousandths past 0. So let's see if I nailed it. Looks pretty close. So I go up and down that cylinder. Awful darn close to 1.5. Now that these cylinders are all done, bored, honed, deck surface has been done, I need to put the expansion plugs back in the end of these. We are going to use brass plugs on this. Steel plugs should be fine as long as you keep good antifreeze in the motor, but who knows what will ever become of this. They may not even keep antifreeze. Sometimes people just run straight water. I don't think this guy will, but you never know. So we're going to put the brass plugs in. They'll never ever rust out. But one thing that does concern me is this hole here, for some reason, is bored extra deep. When the head came in, it actually had a cup type plug in there, which is not correct for these. So I'm going to attempt to put the flat type plug in. I think I can make that work, but it will look just a little different than the other two when I get it done. And I'll start by putting a little bit of anaerobic sleeve retaining compound around these to seal them up on each one. Good coating. And this is probably improper use of the tool, but a socket works real well just to get that plug seated down in where it belongs. Whatever you drive that in with, you don't want to hit it hard enough to start it expanding before it's, you don't want to start it expanding before it's seated down in where it belongs. That plug did have to go down in quite deep, but it seems like it sat down against the shoulder, so I think it'll be fine. So now we'll just take a flat driver, give it a good whack with a hammer. And now our questionable plug. That should do it. Hard for you to see, but I've just flattened that plug just a little bit. And in the course of flattening it, it expands it out into the head. And along with that sealer, it'll be sealed tight and never come out. There you can see that one is, it's 3/8 of an inch deep down in. I don't know why that hole was bored that way, but it is what it is. And it'll seal in there just as well as it does in the others. So there you have it. I think my machine work is done.
We should put the mic on one of you two.
Take it on him.
The mic. Don't put it on me.
I don't want it.
We want to be able to hear you.
Well,
You're the one that's got all the good stories.
Yeah, you got the.
Oh, I got the stories.
Nobody
Yes,
cares
you
what
do.
I have to say.
Yeah, I guess I've been around longer than you guys have.
Yes, you have. A little longer.
86 years today.
Today,
Really?
Yeah.
now you're a movie star. Isn't that what you always wanted to be?
Yeah.
No.
Nice of you on your birthday to come show us.
Yeah.
You know, when I was little, well, till I was about 25, there was no birthday. It was topping beats. This time of the year, you topping beats. You didn't stop for nothing.
Didn't they even your mom bake you a cake or anything?
Oh, she was out there right with us. She didn't have time to bake a cake.
Well, this looks like what we came to see.
How many you want to see?
Well, at least one.
Well, there's
1, 2,
three,
3.
four.
This must be that one that had
Crack in it.
frozen cracked on the inside, was
Well, I
it?
don't know if it froze or what it did, but you remember you could stick a pocket knife
Yeah.
blade in it.
Had a great big crack in the cylinder wall, so we put a
You put a big sleeve in
a
that.
thick flanged sleeve in that, so it'd be thick enough so it wouldn't crack again.
Yeah.
I hoped.
You
I
wanna-
put a sleeve in one of these that we just did because it was rusty.
Oh, not.
Oh, did he get it? Did he get it already?
He's going to come tomorrow and pick them up.
Oh,
Yeah. But yeah, it had sat with water in it so long as rust and pitted so deep you couldn't get past the
This
rust.
this here tractor come from down there by Strasburg.
So what's the difference between, this says it's a Wheatland, and the Vista that you're talking
Well,
about?
this is a
This
dryland
is a-
tractor.
The what?
This is a dryland tractor,
Okay.
and the other one is a grow crop. You can slide your wheels in and
Okay.
out, and has a 3-point. And
Do they sit up much higher than this?
no,
Yeah.
not this here. When you went to the
No, the row
Vistas,
crop. No.
when you
the row
went to
crop
the
one, right?
Vistas, they set up a little higher. Well, in fact, you set higher on it. It's got the console over on the side.
Yeah, the platform on the bottom of it's about like right here.
Okay.
You sit up about that high.
I plowed with one Vista, and Dan Wise was a good Moline dealer. And I was behind on plowing, and I went up there to get some bolts one day, and Ray says, "Hey, you want to demonstrate this tractor? They've been after me to get somebody." I said, "Well, what?" Yeah, he says, "I'll bring it out tomorrow morning with plow on." I said, "Okay." And he brought it out, and I thought, well, he was going to in a couple hours. No,
Yeah.
he helped me set the plow, and he got in his car and he left. And I thought, I better plow. And I plowed all night long. Oh, it was 5 o'clock in the morning when I quit. And then it sat there for 2 days. I thought, I better get this thing back. Somebody
Yeah.
got, you know. But if I'd known that, I wouldn't have plowed all night
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
But see, I got weights. I got enough weights, I could put them clear out to here.
And you put those on there all by yourself, right?
Yes, sir. Like that.
We need a video of him doing that.
Yeah.
If you want something to really, you want to hear something really sound beautiful, is that when you really pull the hell out of
Yeah.
it. That just so and say, well, the propane is better yet. Oh, that thing sings to you. This one here we haul home in pieces. South of Fort Morgan, 25 miles, we
Yeah.
bought it. It was all in pieces. It's laid there for about 7, 8 years. And you know, we ended up, all we was missing was a rod bearing on one.
On.
That was pretty lucky.
Yeah.
One piston rod.
Yeah.
This is a 707. This isn't as big as a,
Well, no, it's
Anyway.
the same motor as this one.
But it's
that's
not-
that's
this
a
is
later
older.
one. That's like 65.
Is this the same cubic inch or is it a smaller version of the?
No, it's a
same
504. This one is.
See, and then when they changed, when White bought them out, I got one over here. They made a White,
Oh,
and it's bigger engine,
It's a 585.
and it's a longer stroke.
Okay.
And they was running them at 2,400 RPMs. Well, they wouldn't last. That's too long of a stroke.
Yeah.
So finally, guys got wise, you know, and didn't run them over 1,900. They run for a long time.
Yeah. On boring the cylinders, like that 504 we just did, they give you a 2,000ths range on the bore size there. They're supposed to have 7 to 9 thousandths clearance. And I went ahead and put the front cylinder in the middle of clearance, and then a little bit more on the next, and then the back cylinders at maximum clearance. And I was told from one of the guys that worked at the dealer here that bigger engine you're talking about, they had trouble with them seizing the pistons up.
That's why.
And they actually put more clearance in them on the back cylinders
And
to
they're,
compensate for that.
They're a
They're 585.
585.
That's a lot of inches.
Oh, it'll pull like you won't believe it. See now these here, you can, Moline makes an irrigation engine. It's an 800 something cubic inch. And it'll bolt right up there. And you can't even tell the difference when you look at it. And boy, they make a tractor puller.
Well, listen to start up.
Oh yeah.
Start up and get some.
Start up and hear a real tractor.
Let's hear it run.
Real tractor.
It might have to warm up a little bit, but this one here will too. All of mine's run.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Oh yeah.
This one here, that old guy bought that up at Bridgeport. It was only a year old from that dealer up there. And then he used it all those years till he died. And he said he liked that. She said he liked that tractor. It's you ought to go out that country sometime. It's God's country. No electric, nowhere.
Really?
No water, nowhere. 5 miles, you can't get a well. She said he drilled 14 test holes and never could get water.
Never could find any
No.
water. What about oil?
There's probably oil there, you know.
If you have enough oil, you can buy all the water you want.
Well, he lived in Fort Morgan and he hauled his water out there.
Yeah, you got the Farm Oil Cub and then the newer Cub Cadet.
That's a demonstrator cub too, that one.
This is?
Mhm.
Why, what makes it a demonstrator?
Well, all the demonstrators, they painted white. And it's all white.
That was a
okay.
demonstrator. If you see one that's white like that, that was when it was new. It was a demonstrator.
They show off on the Cubs.
That was,
out new.
we got a 900 too. They were smaller than the G1000.
Yeah.
That's a real nice tractor.
They had a 425 in there instead of the 504.
That one come from Kansas and it had a loader on it.
This one here.
Yeah. And the clutch was out. And we put a clutch in it then, and it's been a good tractor. It sounds just like those, only not quite as wild. And there's the gas one.
So it's the same cubic inch.
They only made 77 of those.
Yeah, same cubic inch and everything is a big one.
Just different heads and
Huh?
Yeah,
fuel
it's got a
system.
gas.
There was quite a few on propane down in Kansas and there, but regular gas, they only had 77 of those. And it really, I dissed with it. It sucker gets with it.
Now you just gotta have a fuel pump. Gotta have 2 to 3 psi of
Yeah.
pressure to keep it running, but it still don't run. Don't have the right jets in that carburetor.
We got,
That's funny where the governor is.
Well, if you notice, the later Molines all got this type of governor, which is better than the old ones with. You can put it on an old U too. They'll fit, you know.
Yeah.
This is a row crop. It's got the 3-point.
Yeah, different
Yes, yes.
different axle under the front, so it gets it up a little
Well,
higher.
you can adjust them.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Well, I'll bet late 60s, if you had something like that, you were quite the farmer.
Oh no, you had to have a John Deere 4010. Until you, well, the reason these people are that way because they never work on them themselves. They take them in a John Deere's, you know, and then they got a big check bill when they get done. This is a good tractor too. We could but we can't get the right jets for that carburetor for some reason.
Was it a little bit leaner?
Yeah, you can't. Once you're really pulling hard with the torque ahead, it just falls.
Just
on its
falls
face.
out? Huh.
And he had one in his shop. He had one in his shop just like it. That's what he used to weld in his shop with.
Yeah, that one's turbo.
Well, once that warmed up just a little bit, it smoothed out and sounds nice.
Yeah, that's where the big minis are.
Here's your type.
This
Hey,
one,
some chummers.
There's yours.
that's too old.
Too old.
Yeah, what is that?
WC.
Huh. Is this a Continental motor on the
No, that's an
welder?
international truck motor.
Oh, it is.
You want to hear that sucker run? Yeah, run. Oh my God. It sits there and runs like a sewing machine. And then it's got that governor, you know, and you strike it. Run, run. Do you ever have one there?
No.
Do you ever drive one?
No.
No?
Nope. No, that's a lot different than the ones I've got.
Well, or the one your dad had too.
Yeah. Yeah, because everything he had and what I've got is new enough.
Well,
The rear end and
you don't even have a WD, do you?
no. No, the oldest one I got is probably late 50s.
I like to hear them old motors run when they're.
Now that's hard to imagine. What year truck you say that was?
36.
36. So that thing is pushing 90 years old, 85 plus years old.
Well,
And listen to it run.
Man, look at the gauges. They're coming out of that pickup.
the gauges, yeah. That's original gauges.
Yeah, they actually have the instrument cluster that came out of the truck, or somebody's truck.
Well, that'd come out of that truck that motor come out of.
Pretty neat. Now, I'm just amazed how quiet the motor, I mean, we got exhaust noise, but how quiet the motor itself is.
And that's straight pipe too.
That's an AC welder.
Yeah.
See, this is the part of the pickup. And you just straight couple out of that shaft.
Okay.
Welder.
Yeah, that really runs nice and smooth.
That old man knew what he was doing. A new pickup today won't, 88 years from now won't run like that. No.
No. A new one today, all the electronics will be shot on it.
And nobody will know what.
No.
Yeah. He hadn't been started over a year. I welded with it a little bit just to see what it would do. The guy's got a big job outside someplace. That's the thing to use. And he had that in his shop, and he had an exhaust pipe made so it would go outside.
Yeah, because even with this open like it is,
I was gonna.
it's getting strong.
Oh, you could. Well, no, better shut her up.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, you need to make sure you get that out there for the world to let them know.
Yeah.
And they told me it's not, when you get to be up there in them years where you're at, it's not how old you are, it's what level you've made it to.
But it isn't the golden years. They all talk golden years. It isn't the golden years.
Nothing to do with that.
No way. The hell years.
You know you're on the way, right?
I know it.
Oh, you got a long way to go. You know, that's funny when you're kids and you're going to school.
Yeah.
And this kid is in the 3rd grade and you're in the 8th grade or something. Oh, he's a little fart, you know. When you get 88, you're all the same.
All the same.
You're all the same. Here's the one we bought, this little cub. It came from that guy, Kimball.
What is it? I'm telling you about, it looked like a dog turd, but
Right there?
runs like a
Well, it looked like it went through a war zone,
Yeah, it's pretty beat up.
but that sucker runs like you won't believe. See the tires on there?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
You know, people don't look at that,
Right.
but that's $1,500 with
Yeah.
tires on there.
They don't realize
Yeah.
what that stuff costs.
There's some Fords and Fergusons. You want to see that parts equipment?
Oh, you got that in here?
This is the one that's got the 585 in it. It's the same as the 1355 Mini and then the 2150 white, and then it's the 1355 Oliver. It was all the same. Can you tell me what happened to that one?
Oh yeah. Little extra airflow.
Look on the other side. The peekaboots are both sides.
Jeez. Yeah.
You gotta even it up. The guy said, you know what happened? He said, that tractor runs so pretty all the time. One day he's out there in the field and he says, boom.
Did you ever work on one of these starters?
I've had them apart.
What's under that cap right there?
I don't remember. Why?
Well, that's just like what's on my 210. Yeah. And it acts like
It's
right, like the brushes aren't making
Probably.
contact sometimes. And I just wondered if
See,
you
this
could
one
take
is
those
froze.
caps off
Hmm.
and change brushes if that's what those were.
Well, at that time,
Somebody left water in it and they got real cold.
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
Well, I looked up on the internet.
See, here's another G1000.
From anybody rep,
This
this
is
is
a
$1,000 for one. And you get
Oh, yeah.
See, in the early ones, they put the oil
They're different. The first
through the hole,
2000,
through the breathers,
they didn't
instead of having
have
it.
a
Oh, okay.
place to fill oil in. You have to pour it in from up above.
Okay.
Which would be one-handed,
Yeah.
probably, isn't it?
Yeah.
Uh,
But you know that
this is the first
my
place to-
G17s, you have to take a cover off
to put the oil
to put
in?
the oil in. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It has a deal just like that, but you have to. It's actually under the hood. You got to take the hood off and then
Really?
fill it up. Which I thought was. Yeah.
There's another G1000.
Yeah, they probably will have to get back over there. I used it already.
All right. You seen enough?
Probably so.
Okay, Are you wrapped up?
I'm wrapped up. Glad to be done. It's been kind of a long project, not only for us, but especially for our customer, because he is trying to restore this tractor, probably never ever be used for anything other than just for fun. And he thought he was going to be able to just re-ring it. He had us do the heads a few months back. They were extremely rusted. Spent a lot of money on them to make them right. And after he got it together, the thing just would not make enough compression to fire right with the way the cylinders were worn so bad. And I can see why now that he brought them in. We've got them all bored 60 over, and that one cylinder was rusted so bad that wouldn't clean it up. We had to put a sleeve in it to make it right. I think that's this one here, has the sleeve in it. So hopefully he can get it back together here. He's out a little extra money and time for the set of rings that he wasted on it and the gaskets. But if it's for fun project, why, that's part of for fun, part of having fun.
Yeah.
So
It's one of those things that sometimes you get by and get lucky, and
yeah, and sometimes you don't. And this one bit him in the behind end.
alrighty. But they look
So,
good to go now.
They
So
look good now. I think the thing should run and make all the power you could want.
okay.
So
What's next?
you guys need to like, follow, and subscribe. And then I'm going to move on to that 225 Dauntless Buick. We're going to do some machine work on it.
Okay.